Good evening. Welcome to the Camden City School District Board of Education's November 14 Special Advisory Board meeting. It is 5:30 p.m. The meeting is now called to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of the Act, the Camden City School District Board of Education has submitted notice of this meeting on Friday, November 8th, to be published and posted on the district website at www.camdencityschools.org, published in the board's designated online media outlet newspapers, the Courier Post and the Philadelphia Inquirer, filed with the Camden City Clerk and mailed to all persons, if any, who have requested said notice. Please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and may be broadcasted on local TV and the district's website at a future date. I'd like to pass it over for roll call to our Board Secretary Taylor.
Thank you, President Nanamdi Nelson. For roll call, Board Vice President Jeanette Alvarez.
Present.
Board Member Garcia. Board Member Cameron Hudson. Board Member Danielle Jackson. Board Member Karen Merricks.
Present.
Board President Nanamdi Nelson. Board Member Maria Perez.
Present.
You have quorum.
Thank you. Thank you, Board Secretary Taylor. Welcome again to the special meeting convened for the dual purposes of highlighting November board agenda items and interviewing candidates for 2 vacant board positions. At this time, I will turn it back into the capable hands of our Board Secretary, Ms. Hakisha Taylor, who will share November work session highlights.
Thank you, Superintendent. We have several highlights today. I will be calling on Dr. Walker for most of them. The one I will highlight that you may not see in the work session today, but will be on the November 20th, the October financials. Dr. Walker.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Board, Superintendent, and community members. Just at a very high level, the items that will be presented on Monday, the following Monday's board meeting regularly scheduled, in the areas of teaching and learning, you will find items such as ongoing special education tuition contracts, resolutions connected to community partnerships, and those may be things like hosting a Black History Month program in the district. There is a Camden County Metro Morgan Village police dodgeball game coming up with our students. We have a turkey giveaway happening in a few places, so you will see those agenda items. A correction to the funding allocation for school-based youth services, which a lot of their work interfaces across the district, but certainly touches teaching and learning. Also, professional development. Some areas of focus will include professional development for teachers as related to our newcomers, restorative circles, and content areas, specifically ELA. You will also find the continuation of field trips that we present each month. There will be items. There's a basketball game, 2 out-of-state basketball games coming up, trips to universities, Washington, D.C., the JROTC's trips, skating, museum, and additional field trips connected, of course, to curriculum and standards. For student activities, please note a few fundraisers for some of our high school students, as well as the joined prom is already on the agenda, believe it or not, looking all the way ahead to the spring, which will be a collaboration of the 4 schools here across the campus. Some of the after-school programs, there are some supplemental materials, including online learning resources, a fun cooking class for families at ECDC, literacy nights. You will also find, connected to DTLR, staff names for clubs and liaisons and content leads. We will have our monthly HIB report happen in the back in closed session, but we will move to accept those, as well as the ongoing bus evacuation drills, which are required twice per year throughout the district. Those are some of our high levels for teaching and learning. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Walker. Are there any questions from board members about any of the November board agenda items or the highlights? Yes, board member.
Any questions from board members? No. Board member Garcia? Or no? All right. Board member Jackson?
Test.
Testing. Nope, not working. Thank you. For the special education tuition placement approvals, this is current and up to date, correct?
I beg your pardon, Board Member
The
Jackson?
teaching and learning approvals for November special education tuition placement approvals?
Page 14.
Yes.
These are the tuition contracts that we're presenting for the November meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, board members? No, that's it.
Thank you, President Nelson. We will now begin to interview candidates for the 2 vacant board seats to become a member of a local board of education in New Jersey.
For y'all guys.
We now will begin to interview candidates for the 2 vacant board seats. To become a member of a local board of education in New Jersey, you must be able to read and write, hold U.S. citizenship and 1 year's residency in the school district, be registered to vote in the district, have no interest in any contract with or claim against the board, not hold office as mayor or member of the municipal governing body, not simultaneously hold 2 elective offices, and not be disqualified from membership for the conviction of certain crimes. Tonight's 9 interview candidates have attested to meeting the aforesaid mentioned requirements to become a member of a local board of education in New Jersey. Superintendent McCombs will now share tonight's candidate interview process.
Thank you, SBA Taylor. Again, I will share the process we will follow tonight to interview board member candidates. The process may be familiar to you, as this is the same interview process we have used in the past to fill vacant board seats. Tonight, the board will be interviewing candidates for 2 vacant board positions. There are 9 candidates to be interviewed this evening by the board members. The board candidate interview order is based on the order in which the board received each candidate's letter of interest and resume. All candidates will have 15 minutes to respond to the questions presented. The candidates will be sequestered in a separate room before being interviewed to ensure equity in the process. Once all candidates have been interviewed, we will open up the meeting for public comment. Upon the conclusion of public comment, the board will go into executive session to deliberate before reconvening in public session for a vote. Each vacant position will undergo a separate nomination and voting process. The successful candidates will need to complete criminal history background checks prior to being able to act in the official capacity as an advisory board member. It is anticipated that the candidates will be sworn into office at the December board meeting. Both successful candidates will serve until the January 2026 reorganization meeting. The two positions will go on the ballot at the November 2025 election for the unexpired terms. The board president and board members will now lead the candidate interviews.
And if I could ask if there are any of the candidates that joined us at 5:30, if you could please be escorted out by, I think, Ms. Beeman to the classroom.
Our first candidate will be Aaron Cooper. Did you want to ask? Did you want to ask a question? Did you want to ask? So why don't you do this then? Give Maria question 2 and we'll have question 3. Okay. Cool. You got question 3? Yep. Okay. You got 2.
We thank the audience for for your patience. The first scheduled interview was scheduled for 6, but they're getting him right now. Aaron Cooper will be arriving shortly.
We just want to apologize. We're actually ahead of schedule, so some of the candidates aren't here yet. The first actual interview is supposed to start at 6 o'clock. So if you could give us a few minutes, we'll wait until the first candidate actually gets here. So sorry. Thank you. So our first candidate up is Aaron Cooper. Welcome. And first question comes from Vice President Alvarez.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm going to ask that you please state your name and address and share how long you have been a resident of Camden City, of the city of Camden.
My name is Aaron Cooper. My address is 1160 Mechanic Street. I've been a resident of the city of Camden for 47 years.
Thank you.
Thank you. And why do you want to serve as a board member?
My life has been dedicated to serving our young people from the age of 18 up until now, and I have served in many different capacities dealing with young people from adjudicated youth to young people in the school systems of the city of Camden, Camden County College, and Lawnside as well. And this will give me a greater opportunity to serve my community and help with our young people.
Thank you.
Good evening. What specific skill would you bring to the board, and what would you consider to be one of the greatest strengths?
Could you please repeat that? I couldn't hear you.
What specific skills would you bring to the board, and what would you consider to be one of your greatest strengths?
One of my greatest strengths, I'm going to answer the questions backwards. One of my greatest strengths is the fact that I'm flexible. I get along with people, and being a Camden City resident, I've seen things over the years that have greatly impacted me as an individual and greatly impacted me as a parent. So therefore, I'm not coming for this position from the side of a learned individual. I'm coming for this position from the side of an individual that's directly impacted. I have a child who is a senior in high school right now, and we still live in the city of Camden. So therefore, what goes on within our community, goes on in our school system, directly affects me as a parent and directly affects my child. What strengths I bring is the fact that I'm open to learning. One of the things that I recognize and realize that if I was picked for the school board, I would have to learn the position, not by hearsay. I would have to actively participate and actively get involved with what's going on. So that's what I bring to the table.
Could you please give specific examples of your ability as far as interpersonal relationships and teamwork?
My current position right now is as a firefighter. And one of the greatest skills that we as individuals that work within the Camden City Fire Department have to do is work as a team. We have to depend on others to do their jobs directly so that we can do our job effectively. If one person isn't pulling their weight, it's not hurry up, come on, let's go. It's how can I help you? How can I assist you to do your job, even if it's on the fire ground or if it's back at the station where it's interpersonal relationships, whereas you don't put people on blast directly. You go to the person individually and address whatever problems or issues that they may have there. So some people may respond by the yelling and screaming, but other people may respond by, talking one-on-one. And most effective communication that I've seen is when you talk to somebody and make them feel comfortable to the point where it's not an attack, but it's a conversation.
Thank you. Next, what do you see as the role of a school board member, and how many hours per week can you commit to school events and activities?
Again, answering the questions backwards. As far as committing time, my life has been dedicated to serving our community and serving our young people. The roles and responsibility as members of the school board is to advocate for our community, advocate for our young people, and actively engage with our community as opposed to sitting back and wonder what's going on. School board members should actively be a part of the community, not just the namesake, but actively involved with what's going on. And I, as a parent, an active parent, anytime anybody see me, they see my son with me. So therefore, it's not just lip service.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Cooper. Please describe your previous community or nonprofit experiences.
Like I mentioned before, I am currently a member of the Camden City Fire Department. I was educated within the Camden County school system as a paraprofessional, also as a substitute teacher. I worked at Camden County College for the previous 4 years as an educator in social studies and science. Worked at JRC as a life skills development coordinator. I worked, I'm trying to think of the name. I know it changed, but it used to be Lakeland. I worked at Lakeland as a detention center officer. I worked in foster care and, again, actively engaged as a parent. And also, I run my own youth development program. When JRC lost their funding, I kept the young people with me until they graduated high school. And most of the young people that graduated through the program have gone on to further education, whether it's the military or whether it was college itself.
Thank you. What areas would you like to strengthen in our district, and what are some of the ways would you suggest accomplishing these improvements?
Transparency is one of the biggest things that I see our district needs, and I've been speaking on that for a minute. And when I say transparency, I, as a parent, am only informed of certain things when it hits the fan. And prior to things hitting the fan, I think that school board members should be active within our school system, whereas it should be a give and take where the parents and individuals in our community should be able to talk to school board members about what's going on, and the school board members should be able to address it, as opposed to everybody pretending as if certain things don't exist or certain things hasn't happened, when the reality is we know what's really going on, but everybody's acting like they're afraid to address it or acting like they're afraid to say something. So one of the things that I would like to do or would like to see is school board members actively participating in our schools, as well as learning what needs to be done to get our school board from under the state control, because the City of Camden School District is one of the few school districts that's still left under state control, and it's a reason.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Cooper. Are you aware of the time commitments for serving on the board?
Yes, I'm aware. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay, no problem. Are you aware of the training commitments, ethics law, disclosures, and criminal history background check required for school board membership?
Yes, I'm very aware of it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. That concludes the questions. You can be excused. Thank you. Our next candidate is Samir Nichols.
Hey, how everybody doing? Hey, Wanda, how are you?
Welcome, Samir Nicholas. At this time, we'll begin your interview, and we'll start with Vice President Alvarez.
Thank you, Board President. Good evening.
Good evening.
May you please state your name, address, and share how long you have been a resident of the City of Camden?
Absolutely. So my name is Samir Nichols, address 139 State Street, and my entire life, 29 years, Camden resident, proud.
Thank you. Why do you want to serve on the board?
I think it's simple, right? To help support students beyond the classroom, help support extracurricular activities in the district, and help build policies that support regulations that meets our classroom needs and livability for students in Camden. Support the district to be able to build equitable schools that compete nationally. I think that's the biggest point of being a board member, is to build policies that compete with national school districts and public education across the world. And more importantly, to support a quality education for all students, no matter of access, creed, or color. That's the most important part.
Good evening. What specific skills would you bring to the board, and what will you consider to be one of your greatest strengths?
Oh, wow, that's a good question. So I bring over a decade of nonprofit management and board governance. Over the last 5 years, I've had the privilege of serving on several local boards. I've had the privilege of chairing the Camden City Arts, Culture, and Heritage Commission, which advised elected officials on arts and culture policies citywide. I've had the privilege of serving as the chairperson for the Camden County Culture Heritage Commission, where we advise the county officials on policies to access equitable arts funding citywide. And over 10 plus years in nonprofit experience as executive director of a nonprofit, I have built leadership teams from artists and individuals of all types, working with different individuals on different tasks, completing them diligently. So what do I bring to the district? A vast knowledge of resources and district and resources to support student education in multiple forms.
Could you please give specific examples of your abilities in interpersonal relationships and teamwork?
Oh, wow. So working as an artist and an executive director, I use interpersonal skills every day. For several years, I worked in schools. We garnered grant funding and supported teams from students, parents, and principals. So for several years, I had to work with principals, lead educators about student and student growth. So what that looked like on a day-to-day basis was having to manage parents, sometimes having to manage students with disciplinary problems, and work with multiple teams to rectify issues on a school level. And in my current work as the chair of the Arts Commission, I get to work with a lot of individuals throughout, directors, city officials, residents, arts organizations. So interpersonal every day. Teamwork, I'm a team player, right? I think I stood at the podium just a month ago and offered the district resources as far as how ESSA and how we can strengthen those early access to arts education funding. So I'm always a team player, even when it's not my job.
Okay, and what do you see as the role of a school board member, and how many hours per week could you commit to school events and activities?
How many hours? Whatever it takes, right? I think that's the most important part. Most people don't want to go above and beyond. I think this job is not about how many hours you could commit, but how many hours you need to get the job done. That's one. Two is, I'm sorry, repeat the question, the first part of the question, because the hours part threw me off.
What do you see as the role of a school board member?
Oh, the role of a school board member, governing, advising, but more importantly, action, right? Being able to sit on this dais with all of you and be able to translate a communal conversation and be able to put students first. I think that's the most important part, is to continue to put students first.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Nichols. Good evening. Hey, please describe your previous community or nonprofit experiences.
Oh, community org. So, wow. I've sat on countless number of nonprofit boards in the city of Camden, in the county of Camden. Specifically, I bring over 10 plus years of nonprofit board experience, government board experience, 5 plus years in government board experience, to clarify. And so every day I'm out in the community. I actually missed a neighborhood stakeholders meeting in North Camden to be here. So to tell you how much commitment I am to community organizations.
Okay. And what areas would you like to strengthen in our district? And what are some of the ways you would suggest accomplishing these improvements?
Oh, wow. So a lot of times people talk about the business office, right? And so I love that I get to talk about, in my day job, business forecasting. So understand that the district has always looked at trying to improve its business office, and I know we now have a new BA, and that's going to improve all of the work there. So working on a committee to help support business and finance, and really looking at school support and what that looks like from the standpoint of really understanding the curriculum and supporting the district there in those areas, and strengthening the financing and the curriculum.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Nichols. Are you aware of the time commitments for serving on the board?
Yes. Absolutely.
If you want to elaborate, you can.
I will. I think that the district is made up of committees. I think that the district is made up of student activities. And so when you think of how much time should be spent in a school versus how much time should be spent in a meeting, I think the work sessions, beyond the 2 meetings a month, the work session and the actual meeting here, I think that whatever the district needs in terms of time commitment, I'll be available for.
Thank you. Are you aware of the training commitments, ethics law disclosures, and criminal history background check required for school board membership?
Yes. Understanding that I've faced, I sat on 2 other governing boards in the county, which also faces it. I've also served as been vetted through the governor's office for the the State Arts Council, to clarify. So I understand what the finance disclosure forms and the ethics laws look like and what it looks like to be vetted and pass the background screenings.
Thank you.
Yep.
That completes the questions for Samir Nichols. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you all. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Could you hear me now? Oh, put it back.
Our next candidate is Delbert Neal. Welcome.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone.
And the first question to come from Vice President Alvarez.
Thank you, Board President. Good evening.
Good evening.
May you please state your name, address, and how long you have been a resident of the city of Camden?
My name is Delbert Neal. My address is 2728 River Road, Camden, New Jersey, and I've been a resident for 52 years.
Thank you.
Why do you want to serve as a board member?
Why I want to serve on is I want to have a direct impact on education. You're welcome.
Good evening. What specific skills would you bring to the board, and what would you consider to be one of your greatest strengths?
My specific skills would be the ability to multitask, having a background in project management and being an engineer. I'm well-rounded in a lot of the facets that the Board of Education would deem to help out the community.
Thank you.
Could you please give specific examples of your abilities in interpersonal relationships and teamwork?
So I believe communication is one of my interpersonal skills. Listening and empathy, I think, is needed in our community at this time. And could you address that for me?
I think you did pretty good. And then teamwork.
Teamwork? Okay. Well, I've been a assistant basketball coach in the city for the last 5 years. So I've preached teamwork all throughout every year, putting numerous hours in the city of Camden in the schools.
Thank you. And what do you see as the role of a school board member? It's a two-part question. And how many hours per week can you commit to school events and activities?
The roles I see would be setting policies, developing a budget, hiring and evaluating superintendents, supporting staff and teachers, creating a positive culture in our schools. And what I feel would be needed is just from the standpoint of building relationships with the community. I think we could do a better job at that.
Thank you.
Hello, good evening. Please describe your previous community or nonprofit experiences.
Yeah, in 2010, I started a nonprofit called the Rebirth of Camden, and what we did was supported the NICU in Virtual Hospital for parents who had children that couldn't stay over with their children in those moments. So we kind of funded them hotel rooms and food and things like that.
Okay. What areas would you like to strengthen in our district, and what are some of the ways you would suggest accomplishing these improvements?
Again, communication with the residents.
Okay.
Just a better pathway to and be more accessible than we have been. Some things I think that we do that is just instead of the separation of the board and the residents, just more active things with the board.
Hello, Mr. Neal.
How you feeling, sir?
All right. Are you aware of the time commitments for serving on the board?
I am. Being that I am a coach, and I won't be coaching this year, so I've been dedicating, I want to say 20 to 30 hours a week in that facet. I don't see why that would change. If I was in the board, I would just transition onto the board and still give that amount of time per week.
Okay, last question is, are you aware of the training commitments, ethics, law disclosures, and criminal history background check required for a school board membership?
Yes, I am. And I'm prepared to submit all those recommendations and take any trainings that is necessary.
Thank you.
That completes the interview. Mr. Delbert Neal, thank you.
I appreciate you. Thank you. Have a great night, guys.
Our next candidate is Mr. Derek Galashaw. Our first question will come from Vice President Alvarez.
Thank you, Board President. Good evening.
Good evening.
May you please state your name, address, and share how long you have been a resident of the city of Camden.
Derek Galashaw, 1703 Ferry Avenue, 08104. I've been a resident of Camden for 43 years.
Thank you.
No problem.
And why do you want to serve as a board member?
I want to serve as a board member because I invested over 20 years in Camden as a community member, as well as somebody that's deeply involved in the education system and growth of our youth in the city. Like through all these experiences, I'm aware of like the challenges as well as the potential that our students face. So through my involvement, I have dedicated myself to build like programs for the youth by creating community programs, family engagement, as well as daily programs focusing on programs that focus on students' writing. Serving on the board will give me a chance to directly advocate for the policies, resources, curriculum, and support systems our students and teachers need. I want to be part of a team that changes the narrative of what people say about the city and our educational system. And when they say we can't do, we do.
Good evening. What specific skills would you bring to the board, and what will you consider to be one of your greatest strengths?
I bring leadership, commitment, practical skills, being involved in the community, passion, team player, easy to connect with others. And I would say my greatest strength that for the board would be my relatability, being able to relate with the students, being in a place before. I could sit here and talk about me being a graduate of the Camden school systems, going into college, feeling like I was prepared, but then sitting in the classroom, feeling like I didn't belong. So that's something I wouldn't want another child to experience. So at that time, you can either break, that could break you or make you. So being on the board will actually help me help others persevere through those situations.
Thank you.
Could you please give specific examples of your ability in interpersonal relationships and teamwork?
As senior director of Mighty Writers, I say this will be part of my day-to-day duties. So for example, you gotta depend on your team to be committed, communication. You gotta have confidence in your team, as well as take their ideas and respect their ideas, and so things can change or get better. So even if we give an example of something we do, so we do a daily distribution to our community, we give out food and resources. So even something as simple as having monthly meetings with our volunteers, as well as surveying our participants who come get the resources. It lets us know the things that they actually need, and we're not putting out things that we just want to put out. So that increases the number of people we have, as well as helps us when we're thinking of new programs and things, also things to bring to the community. Something else I would say is we have an upcoming turkey drive. So something that we have a regular team meeting with my team, talk about the turkey drive, just listening to one of my teammates' ideas to say, look, we should combine our turkey drive with our fall fest, so we can get so we can basically tackle two goals into one and bring more people out. So with this, taking on that idea, we was able to bring in about 20 other organizations. So being able to work as a team with everybody getting input and putting their ideas out to keep the same goals and accomplish is something that was great. And I think it's important to listen to everybody's views, knowing everybody's views count, and as long as the goal stays in mind.
And what do you see as the role of a school board member, and how many hours per week can you commit to school events or activities?
I believe the role of a school board member is to be a bridge between the community, students, and educators, to work together to make sure that the schools is a place where our students can thrive. School board member should be dedicated to creating policies, opportunities, programs that mirror the needs of our students and teachers through their voices. So to be supportive of a student not only through their academics, but also the extracurricular activities.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Galashaw.
How are you doing?
Fine, thank you. Please describe your previous community or nonprofit experiences.
Directly out of college, I was involved in a program Overbound. Overbound was geared to increase students' enrollment to graduate and go to college. So after that, I became assistant director of Champ Gear Up program. Doing the Champ Gear Up program is to help students build the foundation and guide them through the middle school or high school, actually get to post-secondary, and we do a bunch of things to take them outside of their environment so they can get that motivation to actually want to do something beyond just school, or something that motivates them to carry on to be successful in what they choose to be successful in.
Yes.
After leaving the CHAMP program, I was middle to high school transition manager for Camden Promise Neighborhood Center for Family Service. I was charged with helping students with that transition period from getting from middle school to high school, and then from high school to college and during career. So choosing whichever they choose, making sure they got the right path to get there.
Yes.
Now I'm senior director of Mighty Writers. The goal of Mighty Writers is to help our students write with clarity and understanding. So we geared to help our students increase those scores in writing, as well as serve our community. So what happened when the pandemic came, we wanted to find ways to help our community and to make sure that we try to eliminate some of the barriers that our families are facing. So we came up with providing resources, community events, and different things like that for the community.
Thank you. What areas would you like to strengthen in our district? And what are some of the ways you would suggest accomplishing these improvements?
While working for Camden Promise Neighborhood, I noticed, like when we was in the school, it was like a lack of teachers, a lack of teacher presence as far as like we had substitutes, long-term substitute teaching major classes. And to me, that's the issue. If we want our students to succeed and prosper and score high on these tests, then we need to have the qualified teachers there at all times to teach them. And those teachers that are there sometimes overwork because they teach them multiple classes. Also believe the rigorousness of classes. I think the rigor needs to be increased. So our students, an AP class in Camden should be the same AP class in Collinswood or anywhere else. I was at a board meeting before and I heard a student say that no one scored anything on the AP exam. So to me, that seemed like a issue that needs to be corrected, as well as the attendance for students. We need to focus on attendance for our students and try to get them here. If they're not here, they can't learn. I think all this leads to the low achievement of our students, and I believe that's why on the QSACs we scored low in teaching and programming. So solutions, I think we need to look at our students as a whole, knowing that they face many issues before they even get to school and after school, so we need to address those. I don't think there's no simple answer or no one solution to these problems, but I just think you need to be part of a dedicated team that's going to work together and tackle these issues. And I also think a big step would be to also gain local control again, because not only will we have a greater input, I think we have a greater impact.
Before we go to the next question, excuse me for interrupting the process, if we can make sure that everyone does not talk in the audience so that each candidate can have the opportunity to be uninterrupted, as well as each of the board members can have the opportunity to hear what's going on. So we want to minimize any distractions to make sure that it's a fair process for everyone. Thank you so much for your cooperation in advance. Next question.
Mr. Galashaw, are you aware of the time commitments for serving on the board?
Yes.
And you can elaborate if you.
Yes, I'm aware of the time commitment, going to activities as well as conferences, meetings, as well as supporting extracurricular activities, yes, and I'm committed to that.
And are you aware of the training commitments, ethics law disclosures, and criminal history background check required for school board membership?
Yes, I'm aware of those as well.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Derek Galashaw. That completes your interview. Our next candidate will be Shirley Irizarry. And our first question will come from Vice President Alvarez.
Thank you, Board President Nelson. Good evening.
Good evening.
May you please state your name, address, and how long have you been a resident of the city of Camden?
My name is Shirley Irizarry. I reside at 559 Pfeiffer Street, Camden, New Jersey, 08105. I have lived in Camden for most of my life, and even when I've moved away, I've come right back. So I've been back in the city for like 2.5 years now, but have always remained working here, even if I moved away.
And why do you want to serve as a board member?
The reason I want to serve is because for me, this would be the ultimate act of servitude to my community. I've had a lot of years and experience advocating for education in different positions. So for me, this would be the best way to give back to the community that has nurtured and served me.
Good evening. What specific skills would you bring to the board, and what would you consider to be one of your greatest strengths?
Thank you for that. As I stated, I've worn many hats in this work as an advocate. So I've gone from being a student to being a parent. I have worked in schools, whether if it was like after-school programs, and have served on many nonprofit organizations. Since high school, I've started out working for Respond Incorporated. I have been a founding member of the North Camden Little League, One Camden, and the founder of Parents Invincible. Just recently, I worked with a national nonprofit called the National Parents Union as a national organizer, and working with other organizations throughout the country that are working towards education. I have also served on several boards, beginning with the North Camden, North Camden Citizens, and Raise the Bar, as well as Camden Works.
Thank you.
How are you doing? Could you please give specific examples of your abilities in interpersonal relationships and teamwork?
So throughout my career, my approach is to approach with a spirit of collaboration. So I will work to build relationships with others and organizations so that when we come together, we are able to find common ground and to break down barriers that are preventing student success. So that to me is my greatest skill, and also being proximate. I'm from the city. I went to these schools. I worked in these schools. I worked with the schools. So my greatest gift is having nurtured those relationships and being able to bring those to the board.
What do you see as the role of a board member, and how many hours per week can you commit to school events and activities?
Sure. So typically, I know that board members are here to ensure accountability in choosing the superintendent and advising the superintendent, but also overseeing the budget, setting goals based on the mission and the vision and the core values of the district, as well as just ensuring student success across the boards.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that I am available, from between 5 to 10 hours a week, but with more time, when more time is needed, I'm able to make time available.
Hello, hi.
Hi.
Okay, could you please describe your previous community or nonprofit experiences?
Sure. As I mentioned, right out of high school, my first job was at a nonprofit organization. So I've been working with families ever since, whether if it was early childhood education or housing, then moving on. And, I've been a volunteer with several boards as well. As I mentioned, North Camden Little League, I was one of the original members of Camden Enrollment, now One Camden, the same as other parent organizations in the city I've been a part of, whether I was, worked directly for the organization or served on their board. I founded an organization in the city as well that's still in operation. and have nurtured relationships with other service providers in the city.
Thank you. What areas would you like to strengthen in our district? And what are some of the ways you would suggest accomplishing these improvements?
Sure. The unicorn in advocacy has been family engagement, and this is, everywhere that I've visited throughout the country. That how do you engage families? How do you engage families? I feel that Camden does have a one-up as far as in comparison to other communities across the city. So I would love to work toward strengthening that and applying the skills and resources that I've earned throughout the country and bringing that to the city. I've also liked to create more partnerships for students to receive more scholarships, and whether that is in higher learning through universities or through trades. So I have been networking with other organizations throughout the country that's their sole focus is to raise funds for scholarships for students in cities such as ours. So I've been nurturing those so that I can bring them to the table.
Thank you.
Hey, Shirley. Are you aware of the time commitments for serving on the board?
Yes, I am.
And you can elaborate if you
Yeah, Cam, I've seen you work. I've seen you do the work. I've worked with a lot of you and seen how much time and devotion you have applied to this role. And I want to model that as well. So I have seen you all put in countless hours and sweat and tears into this, and I'm ready to join you in doing the same.
Right. And the last question is, are you aware of the training commitments, ethics law disclosures, and criminal history background check required for school board membership?
Yeah, so I'm an open book. So you can do a background check and I'll be fine. I also look forward to training and learning more about, just sprucing up that portfolio. Any skill that I get, I always bring back to my community. Anybody who knows that I am a door opener. I'm not a gatekeeper. So I'm open to trainings and conferences, anything that will help to empower myself and thereby empowering the community that I want to serve.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shirley Irizarry. That concludes your interview. Next up, we have Gabriel Camacho.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Our first question will come from Vice President Alvarez.
Thank you, Board President. Good evening.
Good evening.
May you please state your name, address, and how long you've been a resident of the city of Camden?
My name is Gabriel Camacho, live at 3081 Mickle Street, been a resident of the city for over 25 years. Most recently, I moved back in 2022 once my mother became ill. That brought me back to Camden from Virginia, where I had a role as a police chief there after retiring from the Camden County Police Department. Since then, Mom has passed in 2023.
Thank you.
And why do you want to serve as a board member?
Why do I want to serve as a board member? I believe to serve as a board member is not only an honor, but it's a responsibility. Being a board member plays a crucial role in representing the community, its needs and values, and advocating for our students, for our children. As a student who attended both private and public schools here in the city, I see the importance and impact of both school board and a superintendent are charged with. Success of a student needs to be presented in a manner that is achievable and within reach. I truly believe this. Our children need to see this. Back in 1991, probably before some people here, I was a high school student at Woodrow Wilson, and I ran for the board. I believe I was the first youngest to run while still a student. My platform was a level playing field. It meant that if a student was provided with the proper equipment, quality curriculum, and positive environment, they have the ability to achieve like any other student in the state of New Jersey. I didn't win a seat on the board, but I was humbled by the experience and to have run and debated with many notable past board members such as Rosemary Jackson, and actually I saw him earlier today, Jose Delgado. I truly believe by leveling the playing field, success is achievable. It's achievable for a child raised by a single-parent home. It's achieved living on government assistance while mom worked as a lunch aide and selling Avon door to door. It's achievable as a student going to high school and working 20 to 30 hours at the local mall to contribute at home. It's achievable for a student who becomes a parent at 19. How do I know? Because that student was me. I believe I can make a positive impact and be that voice. Most importantly, be that ear and listen to the community and advocate for our children's success, which sometimes comes muted.
Thank you.
Good evening. What specific skills would you bring to the board, and what will you consider to be one of your greatest strengths?
I would bring my knowledge and experience that includes my tenure in law enforcement, time which included obtaining specializing skills such as problem solving, management, community outreach, which I hold dear to my heart and as a highlight, building those bridges with the community that I brought to my current position as code enforcement officer, director of code enforcement. Greatest strength, I believe, is accountability. The same fashion I hold others accountable, I hold myself accountable. And follow-up, I believe those are two of my greatest strengths, which to continue, I simply continue to perfect that. In my personal life, both professional and personal, I see that failing with that ingredient in organizations and personal relationships is failure in holding oneself accountable. It includes admitting at times and being knowledgeable of one's shortcomings by failing to do so, because what happens is it'll snowball to distrust. And as we all know, distrust is something that's difficult to overcome. Follow-ups is the only way things get done. That's the only way that they're not forgotten or misplaced. I strongly believe those strengths will be an asset and welcome contribution to the board.
Thank you.
Could you please give specific examples of your abilities in interpersonal relationships and teamwork?
Interpersonal relationships. One that stands out when I think of interpersonal relationships that I recall is as a police commander assigned to the 1st District, which is North Canada, back in 2013. I attended various meetings with the community. Many of those meetings were somewhat confrontational due to past relationships, police, and the community. And as a resident, some of the animosity was warranted due to past contact with the police. Although many of the meetings began kind of tough and kind of rough, it was important to open and collaborate with each other. We discussed issues such as past police interactions. It was paramount to have a dialogue and show respect with one another. At times it was heated in the beginning. A huge component was to be an active listener, maintain a positive attitude. I was able to sit with residents and our youth, having long discussions, talking about neighborhood concerns and building relationships. This is one of a foundation on building interpersonal relationships, which I still have today. I built it on being persistent and consistent, breaking barriers, not only be seen as a police officer at the time, but also as Gabe. That was huge. And that's something, and that was a personal win that I hold dear even today.
What do you see as the role of a school board member, and how many hours per week can you commit to school events and activities?
I just wanted to, it was both with also teamwork, so I didn't know if you wanted me to answer that portion of it as well.
Yep.
All right. As far as teamwork, one is most recent in my current position as code enforcement director. The city back in 2022 adopted to do the 5-year inspection. This was a new inspection for the city and included the inspectors taking a four-month online course. I encouraged the Housing Bureau to participate, which included myself. This effort produced collaboration. We were working together. I was able to get to know the members of Housing Bureau, communication, which is key in building any type of relationship, reliability. And I say that because it gave me the opportunity that we all had to be on time on class. It was no special treatment because I was quote unquote the boss. Awareness and familiarity. Taking the time to know the work that they do and not just be seen as a boss but as an active member, it was huge. It was huge for me, and it was huge to be seen that I genuinely cared about the job they were doing and not just seen as the boss, but it made me more of an effective leader.
Mr. Camacho.
Good evening.
Please describe your previous community or nonprofit experiences.
My previous community and nonprofit experiences, I served when I was in the police department as a member and also as a president. It was called the Hispanic Police Officer Society. That was for about 1996 to 2012. While a member of this organization, we focused on giving back. We had our Giving Back Thanksgiving program, which we provided Thanksgiving baskets to several families throughout the years. We provided scholarships to high school students in the city. We also mentored and spoke at local schools. After that, or kind of at around the same time, I also served as a board member for PRUP in Camden. That was about 2009 to about 2017. This particular organization, they were involved in various services for the city, which included food drives, after-school programs for youth and teenagers. Most recently, I'm currently serve as a board member of El Centro Daycare and Child Early Development Center.
Oh, thank you. What areas would you like to strengthen in our district? And what are some ways you would suggest accomplishing these improvements?
The area I would strengthen our district would be focused on parent involvement and support for our children. It's critical that the efforts that the district currently makes for our children continues after school hours. It can only be done with the support of the parents. We must express to our parents the importance and provide them with the resources to partner with the success of their children. To leave out the importance of the parents and the family support, it jeopardizes all the efforts that we make in the school system. Definitely, it would have to be wraparound services, efforts to include in the home. And with the family support, that's the only way for them to be truly successful.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Camacho.
Good evening.
Are you aware of the time commitments for serving on the board?
Yes, I'm aware of the time commitment and the importance of serving on the board. It's not one that I hold lightly. I'm prepared and I look forward to continue to serve the board in my community.
And are you aware of the training commitments, ethics law disclosures, and criminal history background check required for board membership?
Yes, I'm quite aware of the training commitment and understand the importance and the value of the law, of the ethical law disclosure. We're speaking about our children. I understand that these are safeguards for our children, which are paramount.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gabriel Camacho. That concludes your interview.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Our next candidate is Constant Mercedes.
Hi.
Hi.
Good evening.
The first question will come from Vice President Alvarez. Thank you.
Thank you, Board President. Good evening.
Good evening.
May you please state your name, address, and share how long you've been a resident of the city of Camden.
My name's Constance Mercedes. I live at 1250 Jackson Street in Camden. I've been in Camden for 2 years.
Thank you.
At my address, yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
At my address, I've been there for 2 years.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
I've been in Camden for 2 years. Yes. I've been living at the same address in Camden for 2 years, so that's my whole period in Camden. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And why do you want to serve as a board member?
Well, I think that a good public school system is necessary for a thriving middle class, which is kind of lacking in Camden at the moment. Plus, I would like to see every child here grow and succeed. I think a good education is necessary for that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good evening. What specific skills would you bring to the board, and what will you consider to be one of your greatest strengths?
Well, I think I bring leadership skills to the board. I work as a nurse at Lourdes on 6 North Med-Surg. So as part of my job, I learned to take responsibility for my actions and admit my mistakes openly. If I do something wrong, I tell the nurse manager or I speak to the nurse educator about it, so I can do things differently in the future. I think one of my biggest strengths is accountability. As a nurse, I am accountable. I have a license to maintain, so I work to maintain my license and ensure patient safety at all costs, basically.
Thank you.
Could you please give specific examples of your abilities in interpersonal relationships and teamwork?
Well, again, I work at Lourdes as a nurse, so we have what's called grand rounds, which is basically at around 11 o'clock in the morning, doctors, nurses, physical therapists, social workers, dietary, we all get together in a circle kind of like this, and we discuss patient care, why are they there, what's going to happen post-discharge, do they have any needs, what are we doing for them now? So we all work together as a team to ensure the goal of basically patient discharge.
What do you see as the role of a board member, and how many hours per week can you commit to school events and activities?
Well, I think board members, they set policies and goals. They promote community involvement of private citizens and taxpayers, and they also hold the board, they also look for accountability, making sure the goals are being met within the school system. And I only work on the weekends, as around now I work part-time, so I have time to devote during the week to board activities.
Thank you.
Good evening, Ms. Mercedes.
Hello.
Please describe your previous community or nonprofit experiences.
I volunteer at the Cherry Hill Free Clinic, which is a clinic in Cherry Hill. It helps the uninsured and underinsured with help. You can see a doctor there. If you don't have health insurance, they'll refer you to someplace else. So it's a great free clinic. If you're ever in Cherry Hill, you don't have health insurance, you can be seen by a doctor there. Plus, I'm also in the Nursing Research Council at Lourdes. We research topics relating to the nursing field and patient safety. And I'm on the Med-Surg Council at Lourdes. Plus, I'm also on the board of the Humanity Preservation Board. It's a nonprofit that's designed to address child abuse in America. So I have a few nonprofits that I'm on.
Thank you. What other areas would you like to strengthen in our district? And what are some ways you would suggest accomplishing these improvements?
I was researching the issues with the district, and I think that the big issue to me is the high school graduation rate in the district-wide. It is below state level. I think a good way to address that would be more job training programs for the students. I know that Cooper University, they are partnering with a local union to provide apprenticeships to all Camden residents 18 or older, but you have to have a high school diploma. So I think that telling students, hey, once you graduate with a diploma, you can have a job, it's worthwhile to graduate. I think that would be good for students, letting them know the value of a diploma. Plus, there's also a lot of abandoned houses in Camden. I think honestly, just home renovation projects would be nice, giving kids, teaching them skills with electrical work, carpentry, showing them, hey, you can fix up your neighborhood and get a job too. That'd be good. There's a lot of ideas I have.
Thank you.
Good evening, Ms. Mercedes. Are you aware of the time commitments for serving on the board?
Yes, from my understanding is that it's a once a month meeting. Is that what it is? No. I know there's other time commitments besides that.
Several meetings. And did you have anything else to add?
What's the training process like for a board member? Do you know?
Yeah, I can't answer that. I'm sorry.
Okay.
The last question is, are you aware of the training commitments, ethics, law disclosures, and criminal history background check required for school board membership?
Yeah, when I submitted the form a couple days ago, I said I don't have a criminal record. I don't have a criminal record, so I can pass a background check. I have a license, so nursing is kind of the same thing as education. We have to make sure we maintain our license at all costs. So I have, for nurses, like whenever we get in trouble with the law, we have to self-report. So I make sure I keep myself out of trouble, basically.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Constance Mercedes. That concludes your interview.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you.
You too. Our next candidate is Sean Brown.
Hello, everyone. Hello.
Good evening.
How you doing?
Hello. Well.
Our first question will come from Vice President Alvarez.
Thank you, Board President Nelson. Good evening.
Good evening.
May you please state your name and your address and how long you've been a resident of the city of Camden?
My name is Sean Matthew Brown. I've been a resident in Camden since I was 20 years old. I live at 412 North 40th Street, Camden, New Jersey. It might come up Pensacola on Google, but it's definitely Camden.
Thank you.
Hello, Sean.
Hello.
Why do you want to serve as a board member?
Right now, as you saw in the news today, from the national level to state level to local level, our children and families are dealing with a crisis and over-politicization of education. I'm a former school board member. I'm a parent of 2 successful children. I pay attention to Genesis. I talk to their teachers. I'm the son of a public school teacher. I've been an advocate and an active attendee of these board meetings since the year 2006. I was a school board member from 10 to 13, and I'm proud of the record that I did. I saw the superintendent's presentations on test scores, truancy, and other critical issues that this district is dealing with. I know, and you know, that I can contribute something amazing to this board, and that's why I'm interviewing today.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. What specific skills would you bring to the board, and what would you consider to be one of your greatest strengths?
Well, you know, when people ask about my strengths, there's so many. Where do I start? No, I'm just kidding. I know where to start. If you think about the presentation that Ms. McCombs gave last Monday, it's full of data, and I'm very good at analyzing data. I do it every day. I understand education from a theoretical and scientific perspective, but also from a community and parental perspective. I'm also really good at understanding both national, state laws, how policies can affect the things that we do. I can explain complicated things in simple ways. I can figure out a way to always have a coalition of 5 majority people who support something. I'm able to figure out how we deal with this somewhat weird situation of being an advisory board, yet still having an influence on what happens to educate our children. And that's what I want to contribute and bring to this board.
Thank you.
Could you please give specific examples of your abilities in interpersonal relationships and teamwork?
Sure. I was the business administrator of a borough, and in that I had to deal with a complicated political situation, working with Democrats and Republicans, working with people who are older than me, had been there longer than me, and some people who frankly didn't really want to see me sit in the seat of power. And in that, we were able to accomplish amazing things that the city had never seen before, and I'm proud of those accomplishments. I was able to set aside any personal disagreement with anyone and focus on the goal of what we need to get done. Hey, Karen. of what we need to get done. And I'll leave it at that.
Okay. What do you see as the role of a board member, And how many hours per week can you commit to school events and activities?
So the role of a school board member is really set by state law, right? It tells us exactly what the role of a board member is, and if you summarize it, there are two things that we normally think about. One is the New Jersey State Constitution says that every student has the right to a thorough and efficient education. And the second thing in the law is that it's the school board's responsibility to make sure that schools are run well. We are in a unique situation as an advisory board because the state superintendent has ultimate authority on approving the agenda and reports to the Commissioner of Education, not directly to the advisory board. But just as I said the last time I sat here, I truly believe that there is a way that we can focus on CUSAC, we can focus on test scores, truancy, and issues like that. I think Ms. Gillespie, who's in the audience, did a great job. Folio did a great job. You, board members, Mr. Nelson, Ms. Jackson, I see you guys often at schools, at events. You've done a great job of showing what leadership can be, what presence means, what loving children can be. In terms of hours, we'll figure it out. My gift to this board is not shaking hands and holding babies and taking pictures. My gift to this board is my intellect, my understanding of education, my understanding of coalition building, and seeing what can we do to make sure that every student, no matter how long they've been in this country, no matter how long they've gone to a school, no matter what issue they have, what are we going to do to make sure they're getting the best education that we can? And that's something I have a history of being able to do successfully, and I'm even more mature, I'm more aware now than I've ever been before, and I look forward to working with you on these issues.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Brown.
Good evening.
Please describe your previous community or nonprofit experiences.
Sure. Since I was 18 years old, I've been in this city, active, even before I moved here. I've been a board member of nonprofit boards. I've also helped start some nonprofit organizations. I've been a fundraiser and grant writer for organizations. I've started my own leadership organization that people who are now in public office and service participated in. I love my community, and I understand that politics alone will not fix our issues. I also understand that self-sufficiency cannot be attained by people pulling themselves up by their bootstraps. So what is it that we can do collectively as a community to love our children and get things done? So the organizations that I've been a part of as a board member, as a volunteer, on staff, the jobs that I have, even starting my company, which has a social mission, is all about how we improve the lives of poor people, how we make people who've struggled, who've had a history of neglect from people who had a responsibility to support them, make it better.
Thank you.
And really, if you guys think about it, this is why I know all of you, right? I knew well, Ms. Alvarez, I didn't really know you, but I knew all the other board members. I knew all of you before you were on the board. And it's no coincidence that in the process by which you got to your seat is because of your service and your commitment, which is how we know each other anyway.
Yes, thank you, thank you. What areas would you like to strengthen in our district? And what are some of the ways you would suggest accomplishing these improvements?
I'm going to answer. Is that the last question?
No.
Okay. And how many more minutes? How many minutes do I have? 7. Okay. Can you ask the question again, Ms. Marks? I'm sorry.
Okay. What areas would you like to strengthen in our district?
Okay, yeah.
And what are some ways you would suggest accomplishing these improvements?
I'm a parent, and when I think of public education, I don't look at the school board, I don't look at the superintendent, I don't look at the community first, I look at parents. What can we do to make sure that parents understand their responsibility where their child was just born or about to graduate from high school? What can we do to make sure that they understand their responsibility in making sure their children are well fed, get enough rest, and prepare for school? This is something that, this isn't anything new, but this is something that we need all hands on deck. That's one. Two, truancy. We got to make sure that every kid that's supposed to be in school is at school and that their family knows the process of re-engagement or re-enrollment. Three, there is an education ecosystem in Camden we need to take a look at. You know, it's no secret that I think we need to take a deep look at Camden enrollment, or One Camden as it's called now, and to see the value of that. When I was on the district's homepage today, the very first thing that says is enrollment has started. Enrollment for the next school year has started. So should we still be having this disagreement with an entity? Is it still necessary? Maybe it is, or maybe it isn't. CUSAC is a huge deal. I saw the self-assessment. We all know that we need to get to 80 and above in every category, C&I, curricular instruction being, in many ways, the most important category. So do we need to look at our pedagogy? Do we need to look at the textbooks, the teaching methods, Charlotte Danielson? Like, what is it that we can do from our perspective, support the superintendent and her team in making sure that the education is at the premium that it can be in our community? And what can we also do to make sure that when young people leave their school, they're coming home to a place that has a warm meal and they're walking down the street in a place that's safe?
Thank you.
Good evening, Sean. Are you aware of the time commitments for serving on the board?
Yes. So let me tell you this. I was on the school board for 3 years, right? 36 plus 36 is 72 plus a few special meetings. I missed 15 minutes of one meeting because I was sick and Tanya told me to go home. And as soon as I got home, I knew I was sick. And I missed 30 minutes of a work session because my mom, I had to come back from my mom's retirement party. Other than that, I mean, y'all know me. I didn't want to miss anything. I'm too nosy for that. So I'm like, I'm being in these school board meetings. Y'all not voting on something without me being there. So I don't miss meetings. My whole life is committed to this. That's why I'm here, because I know that we can get something done that's good. Whether it's a committee meeting, board meeting, special meeting, let's get it done. And if it's too many meetings, we have that conversation. If it could be an email instead of a meeting, we can have that conversation. It could be Zoom instead of in person for convenience, we can have that conversation. But I will be present one way or another.
Thank you. And are you aware of the training commitments, ethics law disclosures, and criminal history background check required for school board membership?
I'm aware.
Thank you.
And what's the last, is that the last, was that the last?
That's the last question.
Do you mind if I want to say something? Is that okay? Thank you. We have a problem. So when you, matter of fact, I'm going to just answer this with the last thing that you said, Cam. A Supreme Court case came out, I believe, in the 80s, and it triggered something that's known as a Rice Notice. A Rice Notice says that the school board cannot publicly discuss or criticize any employee of the school district without that person getting a notice first, which is known as a Rice Notice. And then, in that person has the right to either have that discussion happen publicly or in private. That's my understanding of the way it goes. When I was on the board, probably not a story I should tell during an interview, but here we are. When I was on the board, you can read this on Google. I was home the night that Osama bin Laden was killed, and Barack Obama said it. I rarely drink, but I had a couple of drinks that night, got on Facebook, made a comment about the superintendent at that time, and I ended up getting in trouble for it with the State Ethics Commission. Why is that? Because I, as a school board member, cannot act as a member of the community and exercise my First Amendment right. As a school board member, I waive my First Amendment right to be on the school board. That means I have a responsibility to get a consensus from my fellow school board members before saying anything critical of anyone in the school district, including and especially the superintendent. And I want to tell you a story. In 2007, I lived on Berkeley Street. I was a part of the community organization that was in Lanning Square. At the time, Governor Corzine promised Lanning Square to be rebuilt. Does anybody know who the principal was of Lanning Square at that time? Who was the principal of Lanning Square at the time? Katrina McCombs was principal. Now, I didn't know her before this, but I saw how she worked within the political, difficult system where people made promises to her and broke them to her face and left those kids in that neighborhood hanging for years and years in a neighborhood that now has KIPP as a Renaissance school in that same neighborhood. I saw that happen. So I've seen how politics can help make education better, and I've seen how politics can interfere with public education and make it worse. And I'm personally offended and disgusted. And I find it takes a lot of audacity for people to call for probably the most humble, hardworking person I've ever met in public service, the superintendent. It's disgusting and it's not okay. And I hope you, and I know that none of you, I know that you did not know that this information was coming out until it came out, because I know how to do my research. And I don't expect you to tell me this, but I hope that you guys have a very difficult conversation in closed session, which you're about to go into, and make it very clear. Because it wasn't right what Wasim, the pressure Wasim put on you as board members, it wasn't right. And once we thought this was behind us, and now here it goes, and here we go again. When can we get done with that? And why? And let me say this too, and this is the last thing I have to say. And I hope you talk about this in closed session when you review the candidates. Are you going to be a board that says we'd rather ask our superintendent, who has a list of accomplishments that no other superintendent, at least in South Jersey, has, or are we going to allow that to happen when we said and did nothing about a man when he was 26 years old and a special education teacher had sex with his 14-year-old student in 8th grade? What are we going to do? What kind of board are you going to be? What kind of people are you going to be? What ethics are you going to follow? And it's an interview, and I can say what I choose to say because that's my right on this stage.
Next candidate, Kevin Ruiz Baroa.
Hello, everybody. How you doing today?
Good evening.
Good evening. Hey,
First-
y'all. How you doing today? Hey.
First question from Vice President Alvarez.
Thank you, Board President Nelson. Good evening.
Good evening.
May you please state your name and your address?
My name's Kevin Ruiz Baroa, and I reside at 932 North 31st Street, Camden, New Jersey.
And can you please share how long you've been a resident of the city of Camden?
Actually, we moved here on Valentine's Day, so that's really easy. It's February 14th, 2004.
Thank you.
Hi, Kevin.
Hey, Maria.
Why do you want to serve as a board member?
There's a few reasons I want to serve as a board member. One of them is advocacy, right? Camden raised me, Camden educated me, and now, whether I get the opportunity or not, one way or another, I need to be an advocate for everybody that's coming after me. So that's really my main reason, to be honest with you. But just to add a couple more in there, accountability, right? In order for the district and the city at any level to run the way it should, we have to be accountable. We have to hold each other accountable. If we don't, nobody else is going to do it, and the city's going to be swept right from under our feet. Another reason is because I like to believe I bring a high quality level of service, and I want to bring that to my city. I think that's what we need right now. We need somebody that not only cares, but that is able to, willing, and ready to.
Thank you.
Good evening. What specific skills would you bring to the board, and what would you consider to be one of your greatest strengths?
Thank you, Ms. Garcia. Attention to detail would be one of them. A lot of the times when things slip through the cracks, right, it's because the lack thereof of that attention to detail. And I think that's something super duper important that we need and that the board could probably use. You guys will let me know. Another thing is just general love for our city and all of the residents that live here, every single one of them, regardless of their background, regardless of their records, regardless of their education level, we all need a little bit of love sometimes. And I have enough of it for everybody on here, and everybody out there, and everybody that probably couldn't make it tonight. My greatest strength is communication. We have to be able to communicate. We have to be able to meet people where they are. And I have a feeling that I would be able to do that, not only in English, but also in Spanish. And if there's another language that needs to be communicated in, it'll be our jobs to figure out what that is so that, again, we can meet our people where they are.
Could you please give specific examples of your abilities in interpersonal relationships and teamwork?
I'll start with teamwork, Ms. Jackson. So, for example, tonight, right? I was actually scheduled much later than now, about an hour from now. And I didn't want you guys to have to sit here and wait. I didn't want the community to have to sit here and wait, even though I have communication in writing that says that I can arrive at my scheduled time. That would have been selfish, and that would have been inconsiderate. Two things that don't work at all when you're talking about teamwork. Another thing is that, again, I was raised and I was educated here. And I'd like you guys to know that a product of Camden's streets and Camden's education system is now competing with top-tier realtors in Burlington County. Thank you.
What do you see as the role of a school board member, and how many hours per week can you commit to school events and activities?
Well, you've probably already heard this, but advocacy, right? It's not a voting board, so as far as decisions are made, there's not much that we can do there until the state returns our elected officials back as far as the Board of Education's involved. But advocacy, just because we can't vote doesn't mean that we can't bring those issues in the community to light. Doesn't mean that we can't take the screams and the yells that we usually get from the community and translate it in a way that's well interpreted statewide. So advocacy would definitely be a huge one. Another one is community engagement, right? We need to be out there. This is a grassroots thing, right? It's the Camden City Board of Education. We need to be out there. We need to be participating. We need to be sharing. We need to be talking with people, hugging people, seeing what these kids need, what do you need, and how can I make sure you get that support? And lastly, just reassurance. I'm sure you guys sit up here and get yelled at, and you're doing the very, very, very best that you can provide. And sometimes it's just that lack of reassurance. It's just that lack of understanding that everything that can be done is being done, and if not right now, it will be done. So just that reassurance and that reinforcement, letting the community know we're here, we're listening, and we're gonna get it done, I promise. That's the job.
Thank you.
Also, 25 to 30 hours per week if necessary.
Good evening. Please describe your previous community or nonprofit experiences.
Thank you. I can't see your name, but I appreciate it. So you guys probably know that I went to Brim Medical Arts, and at Brim we started the Chow Hound House, which is a food bank for animals that is actually a well-established 501c3. It's official. One of our donations actually came from Oprah herself that gave us the initial $5,000 that we paid a lawyer to establish our 501c3. At Chow Hound House, it was really more so about, mind you, it was a 2008 crisis, so there was more than ever, there were animals just being let out into the street. And I don't know about you guys, but I got 2 huskies at home, and I love and adore those pets. So it was just one way of, again, reassuring and supporting the community. Like, listen, if you can't feed the dog and that's why, or the cat, and that's why you're releasing these animals into the street and creating another problem for City Hall, let's provide that solution. Here's the food you need. Here's the vaccination. Here's the medication. Here's the education that you need to keep that animal loved and at home. Another one was Puerto Rican Unity for Progress. When I was in college, I was actually a youth coach and a social worker at Puerto Rican Unity for Progress, where we took in people wherever they were, right? And we assisted them with those social services that they so desperately needed to avoid those household tragedies that occur here on a daily basis. Sometimes not being able to make that one rent payment or that second rent payment just cuts you right at the knees right before you get that job, and now you have a homeless family. Getting your electricity cut in the middle of the wintertime. Having social services involved because you fell short and couldn't afford food, and a kid went to school and complained about hunger. All those little situations would be what I would get involved with to avert tragedy in all different households throughout the city.
Oh,
and I'm sorry. And one more. Also, Camden Diocese, right? I think it's a Catholic diocese, really through St. Anthony's, the community garden at St. Anthony's, the Camden Children's Garden. I mean, it's been 20 years, so it goes way back.
Thank you. What areas would you like to strengthen in our district? And what are some of the ways you would suggest accomplishing these improvements?
Some of the ways would be transparency, right? That transparency would help with that reassurance. Just being transparent would let people know that we're doing everything that we can. How can we be more transparent? I don't necessarily know that, to be honest with you. I think that that's something that we as a team, as the board, would have to work together to figure out how it is that we can become more transparent so that people have a direct eye on what it is that we're doing on a day-to-day basis. Where are we? Are we home? Are we at our offices? Are we answering the phone? Are we actually coming to the city on a daily basis to support these people? Because everybody we're here advocating lives here. They can't pick and choose when they come here. Are we here every day? That would be one way. And again, I don't know exactly how, but we've come to that conclusion together. Effective communication, right? Communicating effectively, whether it's the language, whether it's the time of day, whether it's where you're at, right? We know that weekends might be better for some, nights might be better for others. I grew up in Camden, and I know that one household might have this profession, another household might have that profession, and that's what brings the bread to the table. And if we got to meet people, again, where they are, and that's the job, then that's just what we got to do. And finally, accountability. None of the issues in our city, none, will get fixed and much less addressed if we're not accountable to ourselves and to each other. If somebody did something wrong, hiding it under a rug just makes it worse. But if I do something wrong and I look at you in your eye and I say, hey man, I'm sorry, I dropped the ball. This is what I did to get there. This is what I'm going to do to make it better. And I'm going to do everything I can to make sure it doesn't happen again. If we're not doing that, anytime the ball is dropped, are you really holding yourself accountable? Because if we don't hold ourselves accountable, how can we ask them to hold themselves accountable? Or much more, the students.
Good evening. Are you aware of the time commitments for serving on the board?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm aware of all the different events, the trainings, the several meetings, and even some trips that we got to make, right? Because sometimes board members are asked to appear here, go there, show up there. We need the ethics. I mean, we really need the ethics. And that's something that, as a realtor, right, National Association of Realtors, I'm all about the ethics. That's specifically why I went to Burlington County at the office that I'm at, that I'm not going to disclose, because the properties that they sell there require every box to be checked, every T to be crossed, and every I to be dotted. Because if not, the court of law will hold those realtors accountable, because people in certain areas don't play that. And that's what I wanted to learn and bring a part of that into our city.
Thank you. And are you aware of the training commitments, ethics law, disclosures, and criminal history background check required for a school board membership?
Absolutely, I am. Again, being a realtor, I don't know if you guys heard about that huge NAR settlement that happened back in the summertime, right? That kind of changed the whole dynamic of how buyer agency agreements work. As to where before, to keep it real simple, a seller would pay for a buyer's agent's commission. And then they would negotiate against or with that very same agent. So that was an ethics issue that got addressed, and I actually am one of the agents that understand that entire new process, one of the best actually. I'm not going to mention any names, but my team lead is actually pretty high up there as far as the politics of New Jersey and national real estate goes, and I'm learning from the best. Camden City Schools allow me to do that. I want y'all to know that. I'm competing with the best, and I wasn't born here. I was born in Puerto Rico, but I was raised here, and I was educated here. And I continue to live here gratefully and gladly. And anywhere I go, be it Morristown, Mount Laurel, Medford Lakes, Princeton, I'm from Camden. And I want them to know that, because Camden has a whole lot to offer, especially as of late. Have you guys seen what's been going on with the real estate in the city? I mean, if that is not a telltale sign that if we don't get our act together, it's going to be swept right from under us, then we don't need any other flag. We don't need any other notice, because if the money doesn't speak in the United States, then nothing else will. And I'm sure you guys know that, right?
That concludes the interview. Mr. Kevin Ruiz-Baroa, thank you.
Appreciate your time, everyone. Love you, Camden.
I'd like to take this opportunity to thank everyone, all of the candidates who participated in the interview process, for our members of the public for being present as well. And at this time, we're going to transition right into public comment portion, and I'll turn it over to our interim general counsel to provide the guidelines.
The Camden City School District welcomes the attendance and comments from all members of the public at its meetings. This public comment period is your time to present your comments to the board and the state district superintendent. Each person who signed up to comment will have 3 minutes. You will be notified when your 3 minutes are up, and you cannot yield your time to another person. When it is your turn to speak, please request to unmute your microphone, state your name and address for the record. Please address your comments to the state district superintendent or myself. Please be courteous to your fellow community members and keep your comments within the time frame allotted so that everyone has the opportunity to speak. At the end of your 3 minutes, your microphone will be silenced and your comments will have concluded. Please conduct yourself in a respectful manner. The First Amendment is not absolute, and the board can prohibit language that is inappropriate. For anyone whose comments or actions harass, intimidate, or threaten the safety of any person, we will provide you with a warning or immediately end your comment time. We will not interrupt you during your 3 minutes of comments unless we deem it necessary. If a member of the public speaks about a staff member, interruption may be necessary to caution the speaker of the danger of slander. After the public comment period is closed, the state district superintendent will address your questions to the extent provided by law. All right, so it looks like our first speaker is Karen Luke. And after her will be Sean Brown.
Good evening, Karen Borelli-Luke. So I just wanted to say that it was great to see the participation with all the candidates and the what each of them would be bringing to the table. One thing in the board minutes, again, if we can just make sure that when we're addressing stipends, that they're stipends that are in our contract, and that they are correct with the amount of money that is awarded to them. There were some errors again on this board minutes. And we just got an email today that starting December 1st, that there will be no parking whatsoever for any staff members at Eastside, because both parking lots will be filled with trailers and, I guess, construction, so that we are supposed to make accommodations. I don't know what accommodations could be made except for possibly parking far away. And we do have a lot of staff that cannot walk that far. So I just wanted to ask what accommodations could be made for staff members since there's no parking. Thank you. That's it.
Sean Brown, and then Jose Delgado, you're up next.
Hello again. I want to offer two apologies. The first apology I have is to the board itself. In December 2023, when I was alerted of the lawsuit that where the district had a claim against it, my assumption at that time was due to my time on the board, where board members were told of every piece of litigation. I assumed that you as board members knew of what was happening, and I was therefore upset and disappointed. Let me move over so I can see y'all. I was upset and disappointed when in January reorg, you appointed the person who was in that lawsuit to be your president. I later found out that, in fact, you were not aware, and I apologize for assuming that you were. I made a mistake. I'm admitting it, and I want to let you know that. The second apology I have is to you and everyone in the community, including my friends in the room. I had a recent epiphany, and the epiphany was that in me trying to make certain people in power happy, certain popular people on social media feel safe and comfortable,
Test.
Okay. One. Okay. There we go. Sorry for the pause. Okay. Anyway, the fact is, I can't be an advocate for my community, look out for the best interests of young people, and be true to myself, the information, the facts, the knowledge, be true to the God that I've served since I was a child, and do what I think makes politicians happy. Because when I do that, I'm serving two masters. When I do that, I'm being lukewarm. And I know better. So I apologize to myself, I apologize to my family, to my community, because y'all, everybody here deserves Sean Brown at his best, and I'm at my best when I'm telling the truth. I'm at my best when I'm saying how we could be better as a community. We are behind. We're not doing great. And there are things that we could do better. Even if you as an individual are an awesome, beautiful, wonderful person, collectively as community, we can be doing a much better job. So I'm gonna tell you right now, I will never, to the day I die, whether that be tomorrow or 50 years from now, be lukewarm again. That means we may have to have some awkward interactions. That means some of you may continue to avoid me. That means when your ambition sets in, the decision that you make tonight of who you appoint to this board, the comments that you make when you have the floor in about an hour, it's going to matter. Are you going to protect your superintendent? Or will you make this mistake I did and put politics before our young people? You have a moral decision to make, and it's difficult because there are consequences. But if you make that right decision, I have your back.
Jose Delgado, and it looks like Gary Frazier is up next.
Good evening. First of all, I want to say that the issue about Lanning Square, the principal was Elsa Suarez. It wasn't anybody else. That was the principal at Lanning Square when it was being torn down. The other thing I want to do is a public service. You, the members of the advisory board, you're not a board of education. You're an advisory board. You're not a public body. You have one statutory responsibility: produce 2 reports annually as to the progress of the district. That's it. You've never done that. Because I think it's a big job and it's very important. It's how you, as advisory board members who were elected by the people, would advocate for the students and the teachers. You're not a board of education. You're an advisory board. Read the statute, read the administrative code, educate yourselves as to what your duties are, and then you can work as a unit to become powerful advocates for the children and the teachers. The other thing that you all are doing, and people are telling you you can do, is false. Please read the statute. I wanted to also comment, I know the superintendent may not appreciate this, but I attended the 9:30 meeting where they had on the CUSAC. It was a wonderful slideshow, but as I've said to you then, there is no information. Statistics, numbers, and statistics and percentages without explanation, without context, is useless. I also want to speak out on behalf of the English language learner students, the students that don't speak English, the ones that have come up to me and say, we don't understand what the teacher is saying, or they don't have a book in Spanish or whatever language. Those students are being harmed. I think it's child abuse. I went through that. It is a horrible, horrible experience to be sitting in a room. Everyone's expecting me to know what I'm talking about, and I don't know half of what, if anything, is going on. Then I'm tested. I feel like when I was a kid, I ended up blaming myself for the injustice that I was undergoing. And this has been going on for years, especially the Latino members of the advisory board. Get off your butts and do something about it. It's criminal what's happening to these children. I also want to caution you that the test scores are not very useful to diagnose and to plan programmatically. That's not what you need. That's not what you need. There are other things. Those are the things you should be looking at as an advisory board. Please, find out what you're supposed to do as an advisory board and do it. You can have a powerful, powerful impact helping the superintendent help the kids. Thank you.
Gary's up next, and then on deck is Vida Neal.
Good evening, District. So I wanted to come before this governing body because I saw a number of things that's going on in our community right now, surrounding around our test scores with our charter schools and the percentage of budget that our charter schools are receiving from our school board. 50.5%, I might add. And looking at those scores and the charter schools that are in our city right now, just doesn't look good. I know that some of these charter schools may or may not be up for renewal, and I'd like to know what this advisory board intends to be discussing in regards to having them come back. Also, I would like to speak to what I read in the article, seeing a board member put their John Hancock on a piece of paper calling for the removal of your fellow body board member. That's a violation, bro. That's an ethics violation that you committed. You acted outside of it. And if you don't know what that is, I thought I'd take the liberty of jotting it down for you. NJSA 18A 36A B. Well, for you it would be G. You might want to take a look at that. You're not supposed to step outside that scope. You did that, man. You showed the community your hand. You showed us where you lie at. It's one thing, right, when we are told that we have to adhere to a state-appointed superintendent, and then we, the community, build around Katrina McCombs, our superintendent, and programs around SWAG, making sure our kids got computers during COVID. You know, that's just to name a few things that I know that Katrina McCombs has done in her leadership, right, since she's been here. And no, we didn't see eye to eye. Yes, we took this district to war for the right to an elected school board. It's the whole reason you even allowed to even sit there right now. You and every one of you right there. So to see you guys run, get elected, to see somebody get removed from the school board, and to see the retaliatory actions by 3 men, 1 woman, one of which that doesn't represent us in Mr. Spearman, another one by way of a mayor who has no authority over the school board, no voting power, no power whatsoever over our school board. And then I saw your name. And I told you, we boys. But that ain't got a damn thing to do when it comes to our children here in our district. That's set to the side. So when y'all did that, y'all opened up a can of worms in our community, and I want you to know, the same way how our schools continue to fail, these charters are failing. Superintendent, you have a duty too. You could call for a moratorium on these charter schools, and you can also ask the governor not to allow for any more of these charter schools.
All right, I'm sorry, your time is up, Miss Neal. And then we have Victoria. I'm sorry, I can't read your last name, but you're up next.
Good afternoon, good evening, board members, Superintendent McCombs. I would like to say that when I seen that President and the nominee Nelson signed his name to that letter in reference to Katrina McCombs, I was upset. I mean, she was sold to us as a down-home Camden girl, a Centerville girl. She knows our children, she knows our streets. Our test scores are rising. It's the Renaissance schools that are failing. They need to get out of Camden. They tried this in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. They made all the schools Renaissance. They all back public again. 25 years the kids not learning in New Orleans. If you go there, you'll see all the black and Latino kids are bus boys and maids because they weren't educated properly. And these Renaissance schools are not educating our children. Our superintendent has created programs in our schools and outside of our schools to help our children grow. The state just say hooray, hurrah to Katrina McCombs and the job that she's doing in Camden. You people don't know the law. This is why you fail. See, because I was told last month or the month before last, I don't live in Camden. See, if you know anything about the law, you know the public means the people. Anything with the word public means the people has access. I don't have to live in Camden, but you do. You took an oath. He took an oath. He's already violated his oath for politics. It's not even about the kids with you. It's about politicians. You canceled the board meeting last month because y'all was running around in Ward 3 and Ward 4 with the mayor. Your obligation is to this community, the students, and the parents, and the educators, not to the mayor. You couldn't even get a quorum. I know exactly where y'all was. But where you wasn't was here at the school board meeting. And to sign that paper against our own superintendent, you ain't even been president, what, a month, 2 months? The audacity of you to sign the paper to a woman that has dedicated over 30 years in this school district in various capacities, and you just got your foot in the door. And you talk about you want somebody to go. You know who the person need to go next? You. Have a nice day.
Victoria, and then we have Ransha Dickerson, and then Taiwana will be our last speaker.
Good evening. Good evening. Okay. My name is Victoria Pallotta, and I'm the co-chair of the Camden Education Association Negotiations Committee. Dear board members, as of June 2024, the Camden Education Association and the Camden City School District collaboratively established a framework for a collective bargaining agreement. This tentative agreement was carefully reviewed by our negotiation team and returned to CCSD for formal approval. However, at every stage, CCSD's response has been characterized by an unacceptable lack of urgency, with no clear justification as to why this process remains unresolved. It is unconscionable that the association has yet to receive a final agreement for our members to take to ratification. This negotiation process should have reached a resolution in August. Despite this, CCSD has consistently failed to prioritize this matter, sending a clear message of disregard for its staff. The association's negotiations team responded promptly within 1 week when CCSD last moved the process forward, providing all necessary information to reach a conclusion. Since October 25, 2024, we have received no communications from CCSD or its representatives. This silence and inaction is inexcusable. The morale of our members is deeply impacted, and this continued delay reflects poorly on CCSD's commitment to its employees. The lack of response is a clear indication of a disregard for the hard work and dedication of our educators and staff. The need to resolve this matter is urgent and non-negotiable. Sincerely, Camden Education Association chairpersons Michael Warren and Victoria Palat. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you to all the candidates who interviewed tonight. We appreciate you so much for just stepping into the arena and putting your hat into the thing to be voted on. But I do fear that they may not go your way tonight. We've been here before. So let's talk about how we got here. When we said vote no, y'all all voted yes. Then we had to fight for resignations. We got that, right? But then y'all also got to acknowledge that the community has been winning these battles for a while. The criminal background check is on us. We push y'all to do that work. But here's the part that no one's saying in here tonight and admitting it. Everyone up on this panel has ran under the same ticket, Education for Everyone. The two people who got appointed to the seat ran under the same ticket again. That is an indicator that there is no democracy in Camden. There is no one competing against the school board candidates. There's no one. Y'all have taken over the opportunity for us to have a fair democracy inside of Camden. So appointing 2 seats right now, y'all did the same thing last time. Y'all brought 2 people in, not a dig on them, that we did not know. We had candidates that applied to be, I'm sorry, not candidates, people who applied was on the stage last time, and y'all still chose who you wanted to choose. So right now, I feel like the decision has already been made. And that makes us fearful of the democracy that's not here on the stage. I'm pushing you, school board members, to ask deeper questions. You may not be able to do it in front of us, but ask deeper questions, because just because a person has knowledge does not mean they have a backbone. Just because people know people and can name people does not mean they have integrity. Y'all got to remember that this moment that we're in right now is indicative of you all making a really great decision. I'm going to make it plain, a decision that is not about going along with the business as usual. We have been sitting here, we have been fighting the good fight for many years. We've done everything the community could do, and none of us are school board members. None of us are elected officials. We are tired. We are exhausted. And every time we come here to this place and we had this conversation, you all have this energy of, here they go attacking us. The problem that we're having right now is that no one is standing as a champion for the people. And we need you all to make a decision that matters to what is needed for this district. If you notice, a lot of these folks who are coming up here to interview for this process did not have a lot of education background. Does not mean they cannot do the job, but I think that we need to really focus on a couple things. A couple things to be focused on is that we need to move this district out of state control. And the people who are here that can do that, let them come on board to do that for the time that they're here. And then let us run a fair election. Get CUSAC off of our neck. It is a noose on this district. I've said it 1,000 times. I'm not going to stop saying it. I'm on a record saying it every board meeting. We are trying to get CUSAC out of here. It is not about us giving out numbers and all the things like that. It's about us doing the work. Take action. But remember, school board members, when you're going back here to talk about who you just heard interview, consider that everyone runs under Education for Everyone, and that's unfair to the public.
Good evening. The only one thing I have to say as part of the negotiations team, can we please speed the process up and settle a contract so that our members can receive raises that they need? That's it. And Superintendent, just know that you're being covered in prayer, and I pray that God will allow for you to see like you've never seen before and to hear like you've never heard before, and for him to expose everyone around you, everyone, and that He will remove every stumbling block from your path to do what you have called to do in this district.
Thank you. I will now turn it back over to Superintendent McCombs to address the issues and concerns.
Thank you. Again, I want to underscore what I shared already, that we're grateful for everyone who participated tonight in the process. I know the board will speak to it, the board will deliberate, it'll be the board's choice as to who those individuals are who will step into those vacant seats. But this has been a process that we have tried to model or create a process that would allow for public viewing, transparency, hearing the interview process, and then we'll come back out later and the board will share what their decisions are. There were a few items that were brought up during this public comment portion, and I want to just go through those pretty quickly. Ms. Borelli-Luke, I think you're still here. Thank you for bringing to our attention again the issues with regard to stipends. The DTLR team, Division of Talent and Labor Relations, is working on that information. They're currently reviewing the stipends that have been submitted to ensure that they are in agreement with the contract. The appropriate action will be taken to ensure that these stipends are accurate. And so whatever we need to do to ensure that occurs, that's being reviewed by DTLR. Thank you. With regard to Eastside High School and the staff that is at Kramer School, first, thank you for the entire staff, the leadership team, teachers, everyone, the parents and communities, for everything that has been done and will continue to be done to ensure our students are having a thorough and efficient education at our swing space. We know it's temporary, we know it's not perfect, but in working with the SDA, the county, and every other entity that we could, it is the best space for us for this temporary time period. So we will work with the facilities and planning team to measure the parking lot and hopefully preserve as many parking spaces as we can at Eastside High Kramer. To date, we have monitored street parking in the area and will continue to monitor as the modulars are delivered and as they're continuing to be installed, so that we can make sure that we offer the possible solutions that are going to make sense for the staff. We will continue to collaborate with Principal Vega, Ellie Shanklin, and the full team, and keep the district, keep the community, keep the public, and keep the teachers abreast of what will happen as we move forward. We are looking into a few different options. One has to do with shuttle service to try to figure out ways to support our teachers who are at Eastside. We know that we need the modular units because we have the kitchen space that we need to utilize, as well as we need to make sure that we are able to have our automotive space outside in the trailer spaces, as well as a few others. So we are working and will continue to work in collaboration. Thank you for flagging. I want to also thank the city, the parking authority, the mayor's office, because if there have been any issues with ticketing, they have been resolved quickly. And there have been no problems with those. So again, any things that we have been working collaboratively to ensure that anything that our teachers, our staff members need at Eastside, that you have them, and parking is also a part of that. So please stay tuned for more information that will be shared. Mr. Brown, thank you for your input again and sharing your passion and the areas that you shared today. And I know the board can speak for itself with regard to the apologies that you shared as well. Mr. Delgado, thank you for sharing what you shared today, and also with regard to the November 4th, the timing of the virtual board meeting. As I shared, at that meeting, and we'll share the same response again. We had a CUSAC compliance deadline that we had to meet, and we had to make sure we did that at a time when we would have a quorum. So again, that meeting was posted, that Zoom meeting was recorded and posted on the website, as well as the information that was shared in that meeting with the data. We are required to share all 75 to 100 pages of data that we had to share because we utilized the state's data template. And so we did use that, did our best to provide analysis, share the notable achievements, share the strategies that are being put in, that have already been put in place, that are in motion in each of the areas for each of our subgroup categories and our gen ed populations, to make sure that it's out there. But that was not a one and done. We will continue to come back and update the board on the progress that's being made as we continue to progress monitor in those areas, so that we can continue to push the growth, some of the tremendous and dramatic growth that we've seen, that we know doesn't go to proficiency right away, but we are closing the learning gap. We are closing that opportunity gap, and we just need to accelerate and double down on that. So I want to thank you again for your input. I've heard with regard to multilingual learners, we definitely have heard your concerns, and again, we strive continuously to make sure we're doing everything possible to support our multilingual learners and doing things that we have not done. So we will continue to provide those updates as well. Mr. Frazier, thank you for your comments this evening. We will continue to analyze student achievement and work with urgency towards improving our achievement in all areas. We are also concerned about all students, of course, across the district, and that's regardless of school type. So we will continue, though, to do what we need to do to ensure that our Camden City public school students are rising, but that is not done in a silo. So please know that as well. Thank you for your support and for sharing your support in such a public forum. Ms. Neal, thank you for your comments this evening as well. I will continue to do my best to serve our students and our community. Again, thank you for your support, and thank you for sharing what you did and reminding us of some of the different areas that we need to make sure we're continuing to take that close look at when it comes to the achievement of all of our students. Ms. Palat, thank you for your comments. Thank you for sharing. The district is working as expeditiously as possible to respond to the items submitted by CEA regarding the MOU and to ratify this contract. That is something that we all want. I wanted it to happen. We all wanted it to happen, and it is almost there, but we have to make sure that there is a full agreement on both sides. So a response that will be shared with the lead negotiator for CEA, that will be shared as soon as possible. We are deeply appreciative of the commitment, the dedication of our staff members, especially our CEA members, to our students and our families. We do appreciate what you do, and the contract will be settled very soon, and we look forward to the benefits of that for our educators as well. Ms. Dickerson, thank you for being present this evening. I'm not sure if you're still here, but thank you for your comments. I believe as well in collaboration, and we'll continue to accept and welcome all perspectives as we will continue to move forward. With regard to CUSAC, we know that is that is what we are all judged by as school districts in the state of New Jersey. So we will continue to share and continue to push toward improvements in CUSAC. We've shared that at the November 4th board meeting, but as soon as we get our scores back from the April 29th assessment that was done by the county, we will be able to share that also. So thank you for your input there. Ms. Kayaga, thank you for your comments. Thank you also for advocating for the contract to be completed and ratified. And I thank you and appreciate the support you have expressed here this evening, and I do appreciate your prayers. So I want to also, just in closing, say again that our focus is on putting students first. Until That's it, period, full stop. That is what the focus is, that is what the focus has been. We will continue to focus on the work of doing everything we can to shepherd this district into sustainable local control. I am blessed and honored to serve this district and have been blessed and honored to do so for at least 30 years or so, and have been blessed to have been a product, like so many of us in this audience, of this resilient and very powerful school district, because the fruits of what have come out of this district are sitting right before you. And so for our students to be able to also, we have a commitment for our students so that they can also do whatever it is that they desire. They're going to do it. They're doing it anyway. But we want to make sure that we are doing what's necessary to ensure that our district is stood up in every area of CUSAC, because that is what's given to us, so that we can shepherd the district into sustainable local control. I am committed, and I want to say I remain committed to the students of this district, because that is what I choose to do. That is what I've always chosen to do. When I graduated from Camden High School, I know I'm a little lengthy, and I know I'm not usually this lengthy, but when I graduated from Camden High School in 1987, went on to Lehigh University, went on to Columbia University, went on to Rutgers University. I could do all of that because of the foundation that I had. Not only the foundation from this school district, but my foundation in the faith, and what was poured into me by my grandmother in raising me. So what we see today and what we see across this nation today, we know there's opposition, right? We know that everyone doesn't love our young people. And I'm not saying that to anybody. I'm just saying in general, we see in society where there's a devaluation of those things that surround and protect our young people. What I will say is this: as long as I'm honored and able to serve, and as long as God has me in this assignment, which He gave me, nobody else gave it, He gave it to me. And as long as I am here in this space and this place, I will serve and do everything that I possibly can to make sure that our young people can get what they need. Am I perfect? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I am not perfect. What I inherited, we've done the best that we could with it. And I say I right now, not because I'm not a team player, but that weight and that responsibility is on my back when I go and report to the commissioner. When I go, and so what I am saying is this: yes, there's a shared leadership and a shared responsibility with the advisory board. I value the advisory board and the guidance that it provides. But what I am saying to you, and I'm saying to any young person who may view this, because I don't want our young people confused, I want them to know that I am here as long as I am supposed to be here. And I will do whatever I can, even if I am not here. I'm not going anywhere unless I have to move, and unless that is what is in the will of God for me to do in my life. And so I'm speaking as a person right now, and when I speak as a person, I have to incorporate my faith, because that's all that keeps me going each and every day. So please know that our young people, they are coming out. They are coming out. We see it. So why not magnify the positive things that we see, as opposed to doing something that's going to create discord, disunity, have a stop and start. And I'm not advocating for myself. This is not self-serving, because I despise self-servants when it comes to our children. But I am advocating for consistency, at least until we're able to get to a point where we can begin transitioning back to local control, those areas that need to be done. And so, again, I say this because I have to say it. I can't be silent. I can't be silent. Hold on. I have been disrespected. I have been disrespected. And for all that I've poured in, I have been disrespected. And I'm not really sure as to why, but it doesn't even matter, because at the end of the day, any distraction from within or without that jeopardizes the forward advancement of the Black and brown students in this district that we serve, I don't care where it comes from, it's a distraction. It needs to be uprooted and pulled and moved out. So all I have to say is, I am here, I'm committed, we're putting students first. We will continue to stand on the business of education. The business of education. And we'll do that as long as I am in this space. And again, no one can move me unless God allows it. And if I am supposed to move, you best believe that he has an open door that is prepared for me, and I will walk through it. But I'm not ready to leave because we have more work to be done. But I just want to make sure that I say that, and I appreciate it. I don't typically go this way, but I have to, because I would be inauthentic if I did not. And the last thing I'll say what I said before. I want to make sure that every young woman, every young man who may be watching, every student, no matter what age they are, understands that even when you're under pressure, you continue to perform, you continue to do your best, even if, regardless, just do your best and continue to move forward. And that's what I will do in the district that poured everything into me. This district was a safe space. This district was a safe space. I'm going to say it one more time. This district was a safe space for me when I was dealing with issues of abuse and all of those things that I've talked about before. So I'm not a victim, I'm a victor. And this district was what helped to prop me up so that I knew that I can continue to move forward in spite of adversities. And I'm sure that this district did that for so many other people in this room. So let's protect this district. Let's protect this district. No matter who's in this seat, protect this district. Because there are parents and families that have chosen to keep their students in this district. Protect this district because of what it has been for years in this city. An employer of black and brown individuals who are here. Whatever you do, protect this district. And that's all I'll say for right now. And I'm speaking that in love, and I'm not speaking it out of pride, but I'm speaking it in humility. But I have to be honest. I can't put my usual, you put your guard up because you have to do that. But for this, I just need to make sure that it's on record for anyone who wants to see it. Thank you. At this time, I'll turn this over to our board president to see if there are any comments.
At this time, are there any board members that would like to say anything? Any board members? Okay. I'll say thank you to everyone who continues to express themselves. I want to first say I will continue to support the superintendent and administration to serve our students in schools. Thank you again for everything you do. Also, thank you, board members and those that interviewed today. Mr. Delgado, thank you for your leadership. You spoke about evaluations. That's something that we will continue to work on. That's conversations that we have spoken about, the board, the superintendent, and myself. So again, I don't want you to think that's something that's being ignored. That's all I have right now, and thank you, board members.
At this time, I will turn it over to our board secretary to lead us into executive session.
I just know you gotta respect the Trinity comes, and we coming, y'all. And we got your back. We coming. We coming. We got your back. We definitely come. Politics don't belong in education. Forget politics. Our children's first. You can only serve your man first. When you come for somebody, you give them to us, and we start working around, we start building around them, and then you want to try to rip them away from us, or you just woke the whole damn city up. And y'all got a problem. You ain't seen nothing.
Turn it over to our board secretary to lead us into executive session.
Thank you, Superintendent McCombs. If anyone lost their keys, please do see a security officer who will find me. Again, someone has lost their keys. The board would now go into closed session for approximately 45 minutes to deliberate the board candidate interviews. The board will reconvene into public session at around 9 p.m. Is there a motion to go into closed session? Is there a second? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you, and we will see you. Someone also lost a gold bracelet. Again, see a security officer if you've lost keys or a gold bracelet. Good evening and welcome back. Is there a motion to return to public session? Thank you. A second? Thank you, Ms. Perez. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. We are back into public session.
Welcome back. The board thanks all interested candidates for their letters of interest. We will now conduct the vote to appoint a candidate to fill the first vacant seat. Any member may place a candidate's name in nomination. A second is not required but will be requested per NJSA 18A 12-15. The candidate receiving the votes of a majority vote of the remaining membership of the board will be appointed to office. The floor is now open for nominations to fill the first vacant board seat. Oh, can we hold on 1 second?
As a matter of reiteration, any candidate chosen would need to recuse him or herself from any CCSD Board of Ed discussions or decisions that may be a conflict of interest. Again, as a matter of reiteration, any candidate chosen would need to recuse him or herself from any CCSD Board of Ed discussions or decisions that may be a conflict of interest.
So I'll say it again, the floor is now open for nominations to fill the first vacant board seat.
I'd like to make a nomination for Derek Galashaw.
I second.
Are there any other nominations to fill the first vacant board seat? Hearing none, the nominations to fill the first vacant board seat are now closed.
So the roll call vote, and what we are voting on again is to appoint Derek Galashaw for the first vacant open seat. Vice President Alvarez? Yes. Board Member Garcia? Yes. Board Member Hudson? Board Member Jackson? Yes. Board Member Merricks? Yes. Board President Nelson? Yes. Board Member Perez? Yes. The motion carries. Congratulations to Derek Galashaw.
We will now conduct the vote to appoint a candidate to fill the second vacant seat. Any member may place a candidate's name in nomination. A second is not required but will be requested. The floor is now open for nominations to fill the first vacant board seat.
I'd like to make a motion for nomination. I would like to nominate Gabriel Camacho.
Second.
Are there any other nominations to fill the second vacant board seat? Hearing none, the nominations to fill the second vacant board seat are now closed.
So the roll call vote, again to fill the second vacant seat to appoint Gabriel Camacho. Vice President Alvarez? Yes. Board Member Garcia?
Yes.
Board Member Hudson? Board Member Jackson? Yes. Board Member Merricks? Board President Nelson? Yes. And Board Member Perez?
Yes.
Congratulations to Gabriel Camacho.
Would like to say congratulations to Derek Galashaw and Gabriel Camacho, and would like to say welcome to the Camden City Advisory Board. If we could give them a round of applause. I would also like to just say thank you to all the candidates that came out and interviewed today. We appreciate your time, your thought for service, and definitely would like you to be involved in the process, even if it's not as a board member at this present time. So thank you.
Thank you. As a matter of next steps for our new appointees, you will be hearing from us as it relates to criminal background, history check, et cetera. Is there a motion to adjourn? Okay. Merricks and Hudson, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Aye. Any abstentions? The motion carries. Good evening.